Hey there, Internet. Welcome to the Hard On Gear channel, where I discuss and review my use and abuse knives and gear. I've been waiting to do a video for a good long while on a legit Emerson knife. Now, this Kershaw Emerson is the first Emerson brand that I've got, Emerson brand knife that I've got my hands on. This is the $60 to $70 American or $80 to $90 Canadian version, the Kershaw collaboration with Emerson. Backstory on Emerson knives and how they became what they are is kind of cool. Basically involves him getting approached by some sneaky guys who were actually Navy SEALs, pretending not to be Navy SEALs, who needed a certain knife with certain specs, ended up coming up with this kind of design. He couldn't produce the amount needed through his own little custom shop, so he ended up making a deal with Benchmade. I'm almost positive, by the way, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, could just be conflicting some information, but Benchmade made that first deal with Emerson. They put out a bunch of his knives. A lot of the special forces community and different military folks ended up using them. They had a very good reputation. The original Tanto point that was on the first CQC was actually one of the first Tantos put on a modern knife. Ernest Emerson's kind of one of the guys made popular for bringing the Tanto back into modern knives. So the issue with that Benchmade collaboration, it was that it was still too damn expensive. Not as bad as the original Emerson knives, but the Kershaw version here made it a little bit more affordable. When I first seen this is one of my roommates, buddies, course mates, one of his knives. Again, benefit of being on a base right now, all this access to a bunch of knives that aren't mine. But this Emerson, I assumed was a little bit more pricey. Just when I got my hands on it at first, I would have put it in the ballpark of anywhere to like $150 or $200. Certainly feels as sturdy and capable as any $200 cold steel. Probably more sturdy than most $200, $300 Benchmades or even Spyderco's, the Mannix 2 notwithstanding. But frame lock, relatively almost entirely made of steel. The G10 liner on one side being the only exception that I'm seeing. I believe that's G10. Again, people in the comments correct me down below. By the way, if you like Emerson, I know there's some folks who've been saying I should try Emerson for a while. Comment down below or hit me a like, and that will let me know to prioritize this in my knife buying future, because I do actually plan to pick something Emerson up. I don't know what it's going to be, something along the lines of one of these CQC models, whether it's a Benchmade or a Kershaw. I know there's a bunch of discontinued stuff you can pick up on the secondary market. We'll see, but this $80 to $90 Canadian version here has definitely got my attention, and I understand why people are kind of a little surprised as to why I'm a hard use channel who's never tried an Emerson knife. It's one of the first hard use folding knife companies that have ever been around, or at least one of the first hard use folding knife makers. And again, the lineage with the special forces community and the design behind this knife kind of does make it a cool little mixture of hard use, tactical, EDC that it was supposed to be. So something like this, probably about this size. This is the CQC-6K, whatever the K stands for, in D2. As you can see, the D2 steel just below that chromium threshold of being stainless. This guy's had this knife for at least a year or two, I believe. Have to double check with him on that. But it's got a lot of pocket time, some of which in the field, and it's got a bunch of little rust spots, a little bit of patining, and some small areas where it's set in. But for the most part, you just see little specks of surface rust and a little bit of, I don't know if the discoloration's picking up on the camera too well, but you can definitely see the rust. So if you got D2 blades and they're going to get wet, you're probably going to have to slap a little bit of oil on them. I've been lucky with mine so far. So I'll haul out my only other, the only Kershaw I own, the only other one I have available right now. It's the Blur in M4. As you can see, coated blade, much less stainless M4 steel. Aside from the cutout where the frame lock is located on the Kershaw Emerson CQC, the Kershaw Blur is almost the same size, almost the same shape. Big differentiating feature being this giant wavy thing popping out the top, and originally named the Wave because it looks like a wave, and it had a few different purposes. The first of all was supposed to be, as silly as this might be for a lot of purposes, if you were in some kind of knife fight and the crazy chance that a knife rode on top of your blade or whatever, you ended up being able to catch that blade, say, with this little wave, and that's kind of what that was supposed to be for originally. Just a little added feature, nothing supposed to be a mainstay of the knife, but for whatever a little extra steel it cost to put that there, wasn't a big deal. And then eventually, between Emerson putting the knife in his pocket and the guys that he made this original design for, within the first couple hours, they pulled it in and out of their pocket enough to realize that, hey, if I do this really quickly and in the right motion and against my pocket, that wave will actually deploy the knife for me. And I'm sure I'm overlaying some images right now to give you an idea what that looks like if you've never seen a wave feature knife work like that before. I've done a video on how to attach a zip tie to the Spyderco hole and kind of turn that into a wave, essentially doing the same thing, not quite as good as I've learned as the wave does, as it's kind of designed specifically for that. A zip tie on this can be a little bit loose and move around, but you can zip tie your Spydercos, or if you have any kind of other round hole deploying knife, you'll be able to probably get away with it. The other thing is something like the cold steel Luzon, or the cold steel Tylite, or a lot of cold steel knives, or the Snaggletooth, which is an addition to a lot of cold steel folders like the Recon 1 or different ones that don't have that quick deploy option, if you want something that you can draw out of your pocket and have deploy in an instant. So the front flipper on this is, as you can see here, not really designed for opening the knife. That is to grab onto your pocket, and then it does provide a little bit extra handguard on the back if you ever needed it. The front flipper, or the back flipper on this, not to be confused with the wave if you're totally unfamiliar with flipper knives, as that's just to deploy the knife. And if I have another flipper here, I do the CRKT CEO. That's the medium Luzon, in case I didn't mention that. Tip seems to be a little bit wonky on that. Feel free to check out that video if you're curious as to what happened to that bad boy. But the CEO, another flipper, just again, not a wave. You pull that out of your pocket, nothing's going to happen. Again, just a basic rundown of flipper versus wave feature knife. The Emerson wave isn't the only one who's done it before. However, they're the original creators. Whether it was by accident or not, this has become kind of the quickest way to deploy a pocket knife if you're using it for self-defense, tactical, police, military, anything like that. You can deploy a regular pocket knife pretty quick if you get used to drawing it, but there's always a risk of fumbling. There's always the added risk of when you go to deploy it, you throw the knife by accident. Fine motor movements don't tend to go super well when you're stressed out. So this takes one of those steps away and kind of bridges the gap between a folder and a fixed blade as to which is the most ideal for tactical, because a fixed blade's not always practical or legal to carry on you. So if you're in that situation, maybe an Emerson wave knife kind of helps you out. The other options you got here, as far as like your regular thumb stud knives, they can be deployed pretty easy. If I was gonna depend on maybe life or death situation, I prefer the round hole of the Spyderco knives. And when you get used to drawing the sucker out of your pocket, 99 times out of 100, that's gonna pop out. And as per the video, the blade should pop right out. And so long as you got a good grip on it, you could go right to work. Hypothetically, for whatever you're dealing with, so long as you have the legal means to carry it and do what you're going to do with it. And I'm not condoning anything otherwise. They're covered my ass. So as far as size comparisons, we've already seen the CQC-6 with the blur. Just put it up really quick next to a couple of the other ones I've got out already and see if I can keep it on camera, because my camera stand is falling apart. And now, just a heads up, monetization, that all that stuff, the paperwork and the logistics behind that has finally gone through. So I'm going to have a little bit of money coming in from the channel to put back into the channel, and maybe I can buy myself a tripod that doesn't suck. So there's your Benchmade M4 Freak, Manix 2 lightweight, and your CQC-6, about the same size. I'll just give you the quick Spyderco Delica and the Rat 1. Rat Model 2 is buried somewheres, and then we'll call it a day for the size comparisons, because right now I've just moved rooms for the 14th time in the last year, and I keep having to change my damn setup. So Spyderco Delica, got a little bit of pocket time with this guy in the field, getting used to carrying it, about as small as I'm going to go. And then the Rat Model 1, which is about as big as any sensible human's going to want to use for a folding knife. So that should give you a fairly good idea what's going on there. And sorry again for the wanky camera work and the terrible lighting and all that good stuff. We'll make that better over time. Won't be the last time you see an Emerson knife on the channel. Sorry it took this long to get it. Thanks for all the lads letting me borrow their knives for these videos. And yeah, again, if you didn't mind this one, give it a like. If you did like it, give it a thumbs down. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. This is the Hard On Gear channel, signing off.